now listening to a Forward Mile Podcast Network production.
All right, welcome into another edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. I am in studio. Anthony is via phone, so we will be doing a little bit of chatting over the phone. What's up, brother?
Not much, just mainly focusing on Masters right now.
Yeah,
It is that weekend.
It is the weekend. Some say the greatest weekend in golf, and so far we've opened up with Jordan Spieth running right through the competition and then promptly running right back to the competition so far as we speak and do this podcast.
Yeah, currently he is tied for ninth. He dropped 4 shots today through 9 holes.
Yeah, and if you're not aware, if you haven't seen our tweets at Vegas Squares or the website vegassquares.com, Anthony and I have a bet going on. We did a sort of a draft, I would say. What do you call it, a draft, I guess, or roster?
I would say draft, yeah.
Basically, we took 10 golfers, and the lowest total score to par is going to win $100. And if you have the Masters winner on your roster, you'll win an additional $50. So max win $150, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, still plenty of golf to go today before the cut, and I also have 4 golfers that I took myself at decent odds, and one's 1 shot behind the lead right now. So,
which one's that?
Uso's, and he's at -2 right now. I got him at 60-1. $50 on him. So
Louis Masters.
The Masters himself, yep.
Yeah. So, well, let's talk about the Masters for a little bit before we go on to some other stuff. We got a pretty good show here. We want to thank our sponsors, Chai Poker. Don't forget they have a charity tournament coming up not this Saturday, but next Saturday, the 14th of April. They will be hosting a tournament at South Point, a poker tournament. I believe it's at 8 p.m. There's free pizza, free parking.
Yes.
And it's going to benefit
8 p.m., free pizza, yep.
Yeah. Going to benefit local underprivileged kids in southern Nevada. We will be there. We'll have a table set up with some promotional material. We've just gotten the word we are not able to do a podcast, which is unfortunate, but that is okay. We understand.
Yeah, it's understandable why.
Yeah. So if you're going to be in the Las Vegas area and you have the opportunity to come out and support a good cause, Saturday night, South Point Hotel and Casino. It's on South Las Vegas Boulevard. Not directly, it's not classified as a strip, even though it's on Las Vegas Boulevard, but it is about 3 or 4 miles south of Mandalay Bay.
Yes.
So we will be there, and we hope to see you there too. And we're going to do a podcast with Ben from Chai Poker here in the very near future and he'll give us a lot more details and talk to us a little bit about what's to expect Saturday at South Point. So stay tuned for that. That'll be up on the website here at the early part of next week. We also have our other sponsors, Forward Mile Podcast Network. We appreciate those guys over there. Subscribe to them. They are one of the number 1 names in daily fantasy service. Subscribe to them, sign up, log in, listen to the podcast, and tell them we sent you. And also we have 12 Ounce Sports Radio, which plays our Jibber Jabber every Tuesday night and Saturday morning. Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, Saturdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. So if you're listening from us via, or listening to us via the 12 Ounce Sports Radio, we very much thank you for that as well. All right, let's dive into the Masters. And you talked about your bets, and Oosthuizen's won. Who are the 4 guys you have? I know you put it on Twitter.
I had Oosthuizen at 60-1. I had Adam Scott, which is not looking too hot right now, at 50-1.
He's only 3 over at the moment.
Yeah, he just kind of... He was doing well in the beginning yesterday and then just kind of hit a downslide yesterday. I have Schwartzel as well. It says he's +3, but he's actually +2. There's a mistake on the leaderboard. He actually only bogeyed the 12th hole par 3 after hitting one in the water.
Okay.
And I got him at 150-1. And then my longest shot is Francisco Molinari, and I got him at 250-1.
Yeah, my long shot, I took Sandy Lyle. Now, most people who are around our age would have no idea who Sandy Lyle is. He is the 1988 Masters champion. So I got him at 2,000-1 and hoping that he can recreate the magic of a 30-year anniversary. But he started out actually 2 under yesterday, and now I believe, unless he's teed off and changed his score, I believe he is 3 over par. Now he's 4 over par at this point today.
Yes, he finished today +6 on the leaderboard. So as of right now, he's looking like he's going to make the cut unless if something dramatically changes.
Yeah, so he should make the cut based on the score's not getting too far out of hand. The leader currently is -3, which is, I never say his name right, Bernard Weisberger, however you want to say it. And he leads a pack of
one of them, yeah.
Yeah, he leads a pack of 8 people. Leishman's in that field, Stenson, Charlie Hoffman, Patrick Reed, among others. A couple guys we both have on our rosters. I know you have Charlie Hoffman and I have Kuchar, and I think you have Patrick Reed. So,
yes, correct.
I got Spieth on my roster. He's a +4 today on the front 9, which is ugly. But Vijay Singh, 55-year-old Vijay Singh's hanging around right now. What do you make of that?
I'm very impressed by his performance in this Masters so far. I mean, he was towards the top of the leaderboard beginning of the day yesterday at -3, and then just kind of crept back down a little. But he finished 1 under yesterday and currently even through 5. So.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. I mean, I'm glad you let me off the hook with Kevin Kisner, considering he's +5 today.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. We had he had to pick the last guy at 150-1, and I didn't follow my own rules, so luckily I ended up getting away with it, but we'll see.
Hey, you tried to take him.
Yeah, who did I
was letting you take him, too.
Who did I end up taking instead? I forget.
Walker, which is actually looking like a decent pick. He finished today for the tournament. He's even, so.
Yeah, so Sergio, he took a real dump on, what hole was that, 15?
15. Yeah. 15th, yeah. He shot a 13 on 15.
Yeah, fantastic. Good for him. +9. Masters champ's going to miss the cut. But you know what? The good thing for him is he still gets to stay through the weekend.
Yeah.
Because he's got to give the jacket off or put the jacket on a new guy. So, Angel Cabrera, one of the guys I sprinkled on, he was 500-1, and with good reason. He's +11 today, +15 for the tournament, going to miss the cut. So, that was $5 torched off, which is what we do here.
Take it to the window and light it on fire, right?
You know, a guy I really liked actually in the beginning when I was looking at people was Hideki Matsuyama, who right now is shooting even par. He shot +1 yesterday. He's -1 today. Do you think a guy like that, you know, he's got so much talent, what everybody says, I mean, could this be a weekend where no one is really, you know, taking control of anything? This would be a weekend where you could see a guy who's sitting right now in the T35, 41 range who could jump up and potentially sneak up and snatch that jacket away. Is there anybody in that range that you see?
In the T35, 40 range?
Yeah, I mean,
one that comes to mind is one that I bet, and that's Schwartzel. So,
yeah.
I mean, he did in 2011 when, who was it that had the big lead? I think it was McIlroy had like a 4-shot lead going into the final day. He was like 5 or 6 behind. and crept out of the woodworks and made a push. So
yeah, I mean, like we got all these guys we talked about, in our Masters preview: John Rahm, Jason Day, Alex Noren, Justin Thomas, all the way up to Tiger Woods are all sitting in this area. I mean, some of them haven't teed off yet. Jason Day still, it looks like he's scheduled to have teed off, but it doesn't show his score yet on PGAtour.com. So what I'm looking at, and then I haven't gotten any updates from the.
He parred the first hole.
Oh, did he? Okay, so he's sitting there, Jason Day at 3 over par. A bet I actually placed, and I put it on the article on VegasSquares.com. Tiger Woods, the prop bet of over under 73 for his opening round. I took the under because I thought the PGA needed him to really come out on a hot start to get eyeballs for this weekend, and he promptly shot, a 73. So
yes. Actually, I was looking at that bet. It opened up at 73, and it closed at 71.5.
Oh, wow. So I got lucky when I took it. I might have taken the over on 71.5.
If you got the over at 71.5, it was actually plus money right before it closed. I think it was plus 105.
Wow. Your guy, Justin Thomas, is sitting right there with Tiger at plus 2. He's another guy who many believe is ready to take the leap, a la Jordan Spieth just a few years ago. He hasn't had that great of showings at Masters, but many believed he was ready to put it all together. So far, just average at best. I mean, obviously, we're really early, but he hasn't done anything too crazy just yet.
Yeah. I mean, with him making that run in the PGA Championship with that ball barely creeping into the hole, that was a game changer for him. And for him to make a run like that, he needs another moment like that, whether it be in an amen corner or like a par 3 where he gets an ace or something like that. But
yeah, it's going to be an interesting. I definitely will tell you what, I like the fact that the pack may be so jumbled going into the weekend. I think it makes for a really good moving day tomorrow.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that, and then getting smashed on Sunday watching it.
So are just the winning bets, the 4 golfers to win, is that all you bet for the Masters this weekend, other than our bet?
Yes, as right now, yes. Tonight I will again check the in between rounds for players to win the Masters and go from there according to what lines they have.
Now, I had a bet, actually, going back to Justin Thomas. I have a bet which obviously looks really good right now. We are a long way to go, but that he's going to finish outside of the top 10.
Tiger?
No, Justin Thomas.
Oh, Justin Thomas?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's on that pace to miss the top 10, yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, like I said, the jumbled mix will. I think going into Saturday and Sunday with a lot of people in the hunt, and when they say in the hunt, sometimes 4 or 5 strokes is not really truly in the hunt, but really in the hunt, meaning within 1 or 2 or 3 strokes going into Sunday is a really good sequence or something good for eyeballs, especially even if it's not Tiger.
Yeah. Looking again at leaderboard, there's 2 golfers at -4 now, so that just kind of changed.
Yeah, that's true. Is it we got Weisberger, however you say his name.
Yeah, actually he dropped a shot. Now he's at -2. You have Leishman at -4 and Cabrera Bello at -4 as well.
Rafa Cabrera Bello.
Yep.
So, all right. Anyways, let's move on to some other talk. What do you make of this whole Conor McGregor arresting and being charged with misdemeanor and felony counts of destruction and disturbing? And what are your initial thoughts on that brouhaha?
To me, I was looking at Twitter yesterday, and that's all they were talking about. Especially like there was a poll that I saw going, "Will he be arrested or not?" And I was thinking yes, but I didn't throw that out there. So,
well, by technicality, he didn't get arrested. Correct? I mean,
True.
he just turned himself in and got booked. I guess if you consider booking arrested, because he is officially charged with crimes now. But I don't know if he. I don't know how that would be, a technicality. Did he actually get arrested because he wasn't actually coming? They didn't come for him and cuff him and read him his Miranda rights, and so I don't know. Either way, but I get what you're saying. I mean, to have to be in jail.
He's charged with assault.
Yeah,
it's to me, it sounds like a WWE promotion gone horribly wrong for him or something like that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you actually brought that up, because that was my first thought process. Is there's really big black eyes on two sports right now. You got Canelo Alvarez's suspension, and subsequently that fight May 5th here at T-Mobile, which is pretty much a month from now, being now taken down. I mean, a fight that sold out in minutes, the rematch on already a controversial draw, and now Canelo Alvarez is failing tests, and that creates a black eye on their sport. And now you have the black eye of Conor McGregor, and this whole situation coming to light. And my thought process is you're right. I mean, we talk about let's look over the last few years. You look at the stars of UFC. George St. Pierre went into hiding for a long time. Just recently came out and had one fight, but he's not the same draw that he used to be. You have John Jones, who can't seem to get his shit together, and I don't know if he's fought his last fight in UFC, but it sure certainly seems that way. You have Ronda Rousey, who dominated, and then all of a sudden couldn't win a fight. She's now in the WWE, probably making more money than she could have ever imagined in the UFC.
Oh, by far, yeah.
And then you have Conor, who boxed, and I don't believe he's fought in the UFC in close to a year, maybe even over a year. So your four biggest stars.
I think his last UFC fight was 2016.
Okay, so we're talking almost 2 years ago, depending on when in 2016 it was. You're talking about your four biggest stars, your biggest draws, your biggest moneymakers. None of them are even anywhere near the UFC. And the UFC has a hard time. I mean, I remember the last event that was here in T-Mobile. I mean, days before, they were giving away tickets, and they haven't had to do that in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you're looking at situations where, I mean, the UFC is probably in a situation where they may have to create a storyline a la WWE to make themselves relevant again. Because, even though they used Conor McGregor, he's not jumping in the ring, it doesn't seem anytime soon. I mean, why? I don't blame him. I mean, he got his big payday from the fight, from the Mayweather fight. I mean, nothing's forcing him to really step back into the ring. He's got nothing to fight for. So when they announced, I mean, why did they wait this long to announce him, not them stripping his title basically due to inactivity?
Yeah.
I mean, when they did the same thing to Silva and St. Pierre, Silva's was a little different. It wasn't the title, but he basically signed a contract to fight 5 fights, fought one, realized he was getting old and outmatched, and then tried to retire. And Dana White says, "No, you signed a contract. Get your fucking ass back in the ring." And St. Pierre, when he officially, or for the first time, retired from the sport, they stripped his title immediately. I mean, not that Conor's effectively retired, but he doesn't look like he has any interest getting back in the ring. So my thought process was, if he is contractually obligated to get back in the ring, this is kind of a scenario to set up, hey, let's create a storyline with Conor, obviously, to strip his title, get him upset, let this fight happen. And I think when Dana gave him these, this role or these orders, Conor might have taken it a bit too far.
That's just a wee bit.
Or this is exactly what they want. I mean, yeah, I watched the presser with Dana White. He's like, I'm furious, but he looked like the guy who says something and then turns the other way, like towards the camera, and is like, wink, wink. Oh my God, I can't believe what Conor did. He looks over. I wrote the script. So I mean, I don't know. To me, this seems like you said WWE oriented, where the UFC is now trying to probably implement a story basis or a something to get the fans excited again. Because I honestly I watch UFC not religiously, but I would say I'm a casual fan. And right now, there hasn't really been a person in the UFC that makes me want to buy a pay-per-view at this point. I mean, Barao was such a dominating force for a decade. Uriah Faber's pretty much gone. TJ Dillashaw's not a draw. You have Daniel Cormier as a little bit of eclectic as he is. He's not a draw to me. John Jones is gone. Ronda Rousey's gone. Conor McGregor hasn't fought in, like you said, almost 2 years. George St. Pierre used to be one of my favorite fighters. Chris Weidman's not even anything he used to be, and Anderson Silva's gone. So it's like I don't particularly look down their roster and see. I mean, Demetrius Johnson, Mighty Mouse, he's a feather or a flyweight. He's not drawing my attention. I mean, yeah, he's a dominating fighter in his sport, and Anthony Pettis is a good fighter, but none of these guys are drawing my attention anymore. I'm not spending the $60 to watch fighters that don't draw my attention. Yeah,
I absolutely agree.
So
just nothing's ringing a bell and all that.
So it wouldn't shock me if the UFC makes an attempt to create storylines or create drama or engage in drama to draw up excitement for them again. I think I would hope that this, if that's what they're doing, I would hope that this leads to McGregor getting back in the ring. But if I'm McGregor, I just don't see why. I mean, I made $100 million plus on that. I don't even know if I wouldn't even care about, fighting in the UFC again for real. If he wants to be a part of something that's kind of almost WWE-like and they're going to pay him for it, then I could see him doing something along those lines and stepping in the ring every once in a while. But, I mean, do you think this is a product of UFC just not paying its athletes properly?
I would say something along those lines for sure, because it just seems like it hasn't been getting that draw, that income and all that, and they need something to boost that to be able to pay their fighters, in my mind. But, I mean, they're still going to be shortcutting them.
Yeah, it just seemed like, for the longest time, I mean, the topic of paying the fighters and paying the teams was just vastly, they say they were very, very underpaid, and it was really tough for these guys to make a living and pay for their teams and, have all of these, luxuries of being a professional athlete, and especially with the beatings that they actually take pretty regularly, to be undercompensated for that. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, Ronda Rousey, while she was probably one of the higher paid, she's probably making, I don't know an exact number, but I would say at least it'd be a safe assessment to say she's making at least 5 times what she was making in the UFC, now being in the WWE.
Well, I would say so for sure.
Yeah.
There's a topic that came by, I want to say a couple of years ago, where the woman UFC bouters were making less than the ring girls even.
Yeah, no, I mean, doesn't shock me.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I feel like this is a staged setup, but if it's a staged setup that leads to Conor McGregor getting back in the ring, then I think it can be nothing but positive for the UFC, and they definitely need something positive right now. So,
yes,
we'll have to stay tuned on that. So, let's switch to baseball, and just a couple of topics. Obviously, we're a couple weeks in here, and after that abysmal spring, we talked about how he had to get off to a hot start, and Shohei Ohtani, I would think, has done just that. 2 critical home runs and a pretty decent pitching first start.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I mean, for the young stud that's a multi-position player, I'm impressed with his performance so far. I mean, his batting average is decent, two bombs and a couple RBIs, and
yeah, I mean, and he had a decent pitching start. He gave up that 3-run homer, but he really shook it off to have a nice 6-inning start. Only had the 3 runs and a win. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. One team in LA is off to a decent start. The other team in LA can't seem to score a run. The Dodgers are off to a historically bad start in their franchise history. So I don't know what to make of it. I mean, their pitching just hasn't come around. I mean, do you think it's a World Series hangover? And not because of the winning World Series, but just how devastating it was to lose that World Series?
I would say partially due to that, but I would say this team just is off to a slow start. I mean, I still think they're going to make a push for that division, and it's going to be a tough division for them to creep back up to, but if anybody could, it's definitely the Dodgers at this point. So
yeah, I mean, at first thought, my initial belief was that Justin Turner couldn't have really meant that much to the team, but I'm starting to think maybe I was wrong. I mean, he was the catalyst last year, and now with a broken wrist. I mean, Bellinger hasn't got off to the start he had as a rookie. I mean, I'm sure pitchers are probably figuring that out. And the thing is I know that pitchers usually get through spring training and are more season ready faster than hitters, but I mean, even their pitching really hasn't come around. I mean, Kershaw had a really good first start, as well as Alex Wood, but there's a couple games where they've just gotten rocked, and their staff is just not as good as last year. And I don't think that's a testament to Yu Darvish leaving. It's just, yeah, you're right. I just don't know if they just haven't figured it all out yet. And I think if they don't figure it out by the end of this month, that division is too good for them to have to play catch up for the rest of the year, because the Giants have gotten out to at least a better start than we anticipated, and the Rockies and Diamondbacks are both pretty decent.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Any teams as of this point kind of surprise you, like, besides the Dodgers, like either positive or negatively?
Yes. With exception to a couple of things, I think Pittsburgh and St. Louis are already in pretty decent midseason form, even though Pittsburgh was kind of meant to be poor this year. I don't know if that's a product of being able to play Detroit for the first few games.
Yeah.
Kansas City is worse than I thought. And the White Sox are better than I thought, but still just an average team. Like I thought they'd be like Kansas City bad, but they were able to play Kansas City, and that ended up boosting them right now. The Marlins, they don't surprise me, but it's really weird when I look for, I look on my stat sheets and the sports apps to look at my bets for the day. Every starting pitcher that is scheduled into their rotation for the first week or two, and I don't know a single player on their team. Usually you have a team where you've heard, even if it's a young team, you heard of 2 or 3 guys, but it's like, holy cow, I don't know anyone on this team. So that was a surprise to me in a different way. Pirates being, like I said, 5-1, a product of playing, Detroit a little bit, but I think they may have something cooking there. They beat the Twins. They split a series with the Twins, and then, like you said, beat the Tigers, and now they've beaten the Reds. So we'll have to see, what they're actually made of, because maybe addition by subtraction, getting rid of Kutch, may be the good thing for them. And then those are kind of the surprises for me. I don't know if anything stands out for you. Cleveland has gotten out to a slow start. Kluber's not A100 right now as far as getting out of the gate, but I give them the benefit of the doubt over the last 3 years of they're going to turn that around. Their lineup's just too good.
Absolutely, yeah. The biggest surprise to me is how well-rounded Minnesota is compared to my expectations for them coming into the season.
Okay.
And Arizona off to the surprisingly very hot start. So, besides playing the Dodgers, they really haven't played anybody. Besides, I guess they played the Rockies too. So,
well, they played the Dodgers and the Rockies pretty much, and they had an interesting series with the Dodgers. The Rockies was a good series to open up the season. You can't put too much stock in this. Like I said, it's only been 2 series and maybe a game or 2. Most teams have played 7 games, some played 6. But, I said it in my article, and I've said it, I bet it. I think the Mets, if they can keep that pitching staff healthy, should win at least a wild card spot this year. So let's 5-1 is definitely off to a good start, and their pitching staff has been really good so far. And they're hitting, they didn't need time to come around. They had some trouble with St. Louis a little bit at the beginning. They lost, I believe, the last series, but they were able to beat Philadelphia and Washington. Washington's got out of the gate a little slow, but I still think Washington's good enough from top to bottom to be the team that wins that division. But don't count out the Mets from at least winning that division. I think Washington, I wrote it, and I talked about it. They may be stressing the slower they start out of that gate, they may start having to worry about all the Bryce Harper talk. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, just definitely a good month to ease into it for most teams. So.
Yeah, so, and like we said, we're only 2 series in, so putting stock into it's, we're going to see. So, update on one of my bets, my MLB bets. Strasburg is 1-1. I have the over on 14.5. So, it's it's way too early to tell, but just giving you an update.
Mm-hmm.
So let's.
Yeah, I had the Nationals yesterday, and they shit the bed.
Yeah, they lost to the Mets. So, let's talk about a little hockey. We'll talk about that more in depth when Spike gets back on the podcast. 2 big things we'll talk about first, and we'll talk about worst. The Predators win their first conference title, division title, and they won the President's Trophy, all in the same night. What do you make of that?
I think it's great for their city. I mean, I was kind of surprised that they crept up that fast to pull off that feat, but hey, kudos to them. So,
yeah, I mean, last year they were an 8th seed, and everybody wrote them off against against Chicago, and they promptly swept Chicago, and they just they rode that hot streak all the way to the finals. Ran into the juggernaut, but now this year they seem to have put it all together, and I think they're hungry to get back there and now win it. They are going to be a tough out, especially with that home ice advantage. It's going to be tough, especially here for Vegas fans. You gotta be a little worried, even though we beat them. We beat them once in their own building on a shootout, and then we narrowly lost to them the other time in their building. When UC Saros just had a crazy game, and we could only muster we gave up 1 goal, but we couldn't muster one on 45 shots.
Yeah.
So
one team that's probably happy with them winning the President's Trophy is probably Washington, because they have had that curse for the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, Washington, nobody's talking about them, and I think. I'd say deservedly so, because, the last 2 years they've been pumped up, like you said, because of the President's Trophy, winning that the last 2 years, they've been pumped up into the playoffs. I mean, when you have to go play Pittsburgh in the second round, it is tough, and they're probably going to have to do that again, because it's going to be, I think Pittsburgh's built to basically get themselves back to the Cup Finals. And that means Washington's going to have to face them again.
Yes, and it's looking like if they both win their first round, they would play each other in the second round. So,
yeah, so you have it's probably going to be Columbus, but you never know. New Jersey could sneak in there in the division and play Pittsburgh. Do Columbus or New Jersey present an issue for either the Capitals or the Penguins?
I'd say they could, but I don't see it. I see Pittsburgh winning that division, or winning that first round, maybe in 5, possibly in 6.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just think they're too well-rounded. They're too physically of a team for either the Devils or the Blue Jackets to handle. So,
do you put a lot of stock in the fact that Pittsburgh's road record is 17-20-4? Their road record's not great. Of all the teams that are going to be in the playoffs, more than likely. I mean, Florida's still technically mathematically alive. But right now, if the playoffs started today, they're the only team with a losing record in the postseason in the Eastern Conference. I mean, is that something to be worried about for Pittsburgh fans?
I would say a slight worry, but not too much to draw from that record to have an impact in the postseason.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So we'll do some more postseason talk a little bit closer. We also have our NHL Bracket Challenge. If you are not aware of that, if you're listening to this, you go to nhl.com/bracket. Search for the Vegas Squares League. Sign up. Let us know you did. Shoot us something on Twitter. Let us know you entered into the contest. Winner is going to get a $50 Visa gift card. And just like the March Madness, if you pick a perfect bracket, well, we're not made of money. We're not going to give you $1 billion, but we'll give you another $50 to make it a $100 Visa gift card. I had a guy message me. He goes, well, what do you mean you'll make it a $100 Visa gift card? I said, well, if you pick a perfect bracket, we'll double the 50 to 100. He goes, well, how do you know you'll win the bracket? I'm like, if you fucking pick a perfect bracket, I don't see how you can lose.
You're at least getting a piece of it, so.
Yeah, at minimum, you're tying, and I don't think, and picking a perfect bracket's pretty damn impressive. So,
yeah,
I just had to get a chuckle out of that one. He knows who he is, and so I'm not going to call him out, but it was funny. So, it was kind of like, yeah, go ahead.
I have a feeling I might know who this is.
All right, well, we'll talk about it off air. I don't want to call him out. So, anyways, So from first to worst. And Buffalo made history recently against Ottawa, and they are now the first team in NHL history to finish 31st in the standings.
Yes.
Not necessarily a record I think they're thrilled to hold.
No. Arizona is happy not to have that one. So.
Yeah, I think Ottawa was the only team that they could actually jump, but then when Ottawa beat them, that signaled kind of the end with that.
Yeah, that was the final straw.
So, yeah. Well, Buffalo just, every year they seem like they put the pieces together and the talent's there, but they just can't get over the hump.
Put it on the ice.
Yeah, they finished in last place in 3 of the last 5 years, and in the other 2 years they finished no higher than 6th place in their conference. So that is not good.
Yeah. What's the biggest positive surprise for hockey for you this year?
The biggest positive?
Besides Vegas.
That's interesting. I mean, wow, you hit me with one I wasn't ready for. Biggest positive surprise. Yeah, obviously Vegas is easy. Is it got to be a personal one, or is it just you're talking about in the NHL in general?
Either or.
Okay. I mean, this one is not specifically Vegas, but I would say the fact that for the most of the season, my 2 favorite teams were in first place and second place in the NHL, and obviously in first place in their respective divisions. But for the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Vegas Knights to be 1 and 2 for such a long time, and I mean they still could finish that way. Both are leading their divisions right now. Boston and Tampa Bay are tied with 110 points, with I believe one game in hand for the Celtics. Not the Celtics, the Bruins.
No, actually, they played the same amount of games right now.
Oh, are they? Okay. Well, I know that Boston and Florida played the last game.
Boston lost yesterday, so that was their game in hand.
Okay. So I know the last game for most people is Saturday, but Boston and Florida play the actual last game on Sunday the 8th. So that may be crucial because I think Tampa Bay, their last game of the season is against Buffalo, ironically. So they can't lose that game. I think they've got to win that game. And if they win that game, I believe they would wrap up the division. So that would be good for them, to be able to play either a Florida team who's going to fight, scratch, claw, and use all their energy just to get in the playoffs, or play a Philadelphia team who I think without looking at the stats off the top of my head, I believe they've been able to control this year. So it's either going to be Philadelphia, New Jersey. New Jersey's probably actually New Jersey cannot be jumped by Florida. So it's either going to be Philadelphia or Florida for Tampa Bay as long as they win tomorrow and wrap it up as the number one seed in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
So as I'm looking at this, I have another positive for you, and we're talking about New Jersey, and he used to be a former Lightning player, and that's Brian Boyle getting back on the ice and being able to play with after being diagnosed with leukemia. So that's a positive thing for me too.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a remarkable story to kind of follow this year, and big plus for the Devils too by having him on the ice.
A good story going to be for this offseason is going to be the Erik Karlsson. Has he played his last game in Ottawa, and maybe the Vegas Golden Knights make another push for him, or John Tavares, if he decides not to re-up with the Islanders, has made mention on a few occasions that he does like Las Vegas. So some positives or some interesting storylines that I'll be looking forward to this offseason. I know I'm getting ahead of myself. We haven't even reached the playoffs yet, but those are some interesting storylines.
Yeah.
The cap room that Vegas has next year, and I know they have a lot of guys to re-sign, but just all of the first off season in Vegas history is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just something to put in the back of your head with the playoffs just about to come. So
yeah. So once again, if you are interested in joining our bracket challenge, again, we're not millionaires, but we are going to give away Visa gift card, $50, and if you pick a perfect bracket, we'll double it to $100. Once again, NHL.com/bracket, or you can find it on Tony's Twitter at TokenTony89 or on our Vegas Squares Twitter at Vegas Squares. You can click the link, and I believe it'll take you right into the registration page and get you registered right into our bracket challenge. So.
Yes.
Are you? Did you get registered yet?
Yes, I did last night. I shared it before I registered, but yes.
Right on. So let's see. We got currently have 7 members in the brackets. So
yeah, that's what it was after I signed up. So
yeah, all 4 of us are in, plus three other fans, hopefully fans of the show. So
yeah,
they got to be at least following us on Twitter because they knew to sign up in our bracket. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, with that, we will wrap up another edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. We appreciate you tuning in. We are going to have, like I said, Ben from Chai Poker on very soon to talk about the South Point Charity Tournament. So be on the lookout for that on our website and on social media. Also, if you want to listen to us on 12 Ounce Sports Radio, we will be on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock and also Saturday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern and Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. I always get that screwed up. Probably because I'm trying to read East Coast times when I live in the West Coast.
Yeah.
So with that, for Anthony and I, we thank you for the producer behind the glass. We appreciate you tuning in to another edition of the Vegas Squares. We will catch you next time.